Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Well, welcome everybody to the Must Read Alaska Show. I'm your host, John Quick, coming to you live from Anchorage, Alaska today, and super excited for folks that are jumping on and hopping on to listen today. We want to thank our show sponsor, Gungerstein for Senate, for sponsoring the Must Read Alaska Show. It's because of her sponsorship that we're able to get conservative news through all the nooks and crannies of Alaska. We're very excited for that. We actually ran into her last night at an event, and she was very excited about being on the campaign trail, being in Anchorage, meeting folks. It's the first time she's running. So folks, I want to encourage you to go check her out. She's a nonpartisan candidate running for U.S. Senate, and she is pro-energy and has got a couple things to say about how Joe Biden's not doing a great job running the country. And we also want to remind folks that we do have a Must Read Alaska app. If you go to the iTunes store or Android store on your smartphone, you just type in Must Read Alaska, and the app pops up right there. It's free to download for anybody. If you do use it, make sure to give us a 5-star review. And the fun news of today is currently we are the top 200 podcasts in the government section in 3 different countries right now, which is pretty exciting. Austria, Switzerland, and the United States. We are the top 200 podcasts on iTunes. So thank you so much for listening, folks. Small operation, just Suzanne and I doing this, beating folks with $1 million budgets, which is also very exciting. But without further ado, I want to introduce our special guest today, Nancy Dahlstrom, who is former commissioner of the Department of Corrections and former state house member. She is on the Dunleavy ticket running for lieutenant governor. Nancy, welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show.
Thank you, John. It's great to be here with you.
Well, I'm so excited you're with us. I think folks are hopefully going to be excited to watch this. They get an opportunity to get to know you and get to know you as a person. I got to know you a little bit down in Juneau, and just love the fact that you're on the Dunleavy ticket. Tell the folks a little bit about where you grew up and what brought you to Alaska in the first place.
Okay, I'll give you a few facts. Hopefully they're interesting to folks. I actually was born in Baltimore, Maryland. My dad was serving in the Army there at the time. And my family lived in Washington, D.C. area till I was about 8. And then at that point, my dad had left the military. He was working for Allstate Insurance and was transferred to the Utah area. And so that's where we moved. I lived there until I was 18. And interesting enough, my girlfriend and I decided to move to Alaska the summer that we were both 18. She had connections in Alaska. Her father was at the time an officer on Fort Richardson, and we were going to come up and stay with him and enjoy all the beauties of Alaska and then go back and continue on with our life. And interesting, both of us decided to stay and made Alaska our home. And here I am, 40 years later almost. So I live in Alaska by choice. It's my home by choice, and thrilled to be here. I grew up in a family of 6 kids. I was the oldest, and anybody that comes in a little bit larger family knows there's always tons of responsibility and things that come with that. So I'm used to hard work. I'm used to doing things, getting them done, and just looking out for what's the best for a group, because that's what you do when you're in a big family.
Well, that's awesome. Well, somewhere along the lines, you're in Alaska, you've you're into your career, or you're partway through, you've had a family and you figured out, okay, I need to run for office. Something is not working here. Tell us about that story of why you first ran for office, and what did that look like? What is your story of, finally having enough and wanting to run for office?
Well, you're right in that I've raised a family. My husband and I have 4 children, and the youngest one was just getting ready to complete high school, and there were some things happening politically right around me that I became aware of that I really, really didn't like. One of those was there was some big support for state-funded abortions, and I absolutely disagreed with that. I don't think the state should be in the business of funding that. And the other thing interesting was the PFD. And there were many arguments and discussions about it, almost like we still have now. But at the time, my strong feeling was that should we break into the PFD and do other things other than what were aligned in statute, that we should put it to a vote of the people. Here we are all these years later. I still feel strongly that if we're going to change the PFD, we should put it to a vote of the people. I trust Alaskans' judgment, and I think it would be the best, most honest way to do it. So some of those reasons, those strong reasons of why I ran in the first place, still play into what's happening today. Interesting enough.
So tell me about some of the things that you were excited that you accomplished in the State House. I believe you were in there from 2003 to 2010. Talk a little bit about a couple of those accomplishments and why you were proud of them.
Well, a big thing is I was able to represent part of the military base when I was in the House. And I was proud of the fact that so many Alaskans were involved with the military, that we support the military so much, and that we were able to be there during very stressful times for them. Unfortunately, I attended a lot of funerals and a lot of memorial services for members who were killed protecting our country. I did have an opportunity to co-chair the Joint Armed Services Committee. That was great. We were able to create a special honor, a pin, for those that were lost in the line of service, and had a big ceremony. It was a pretty big deal. We brought family members from all around the country to Alaska to be awarded this little pin, but big award from Alaska.
That's awesome. So Dunleavy wins, Dunleavy runs for governor. He wins. He appoints you as the Department of Corrections Commissioner. Talk to us a little bit about how that felt, what was going through your mind. Is this something that you've always wanted to do?
Well, I have not always strived to be involved in corrections, but what I do care and have always cared about is strong public safety and the responsibility that the state has in keeping, citizens safe. It's in our Constitution. It's something that we always need to be striving to improve on. I had the opportunity to serve on a committee that was gathering information, before that final vote that November, and was involved with things that were happening with corrections. And so I was pretty aware of some changes that we were recommending be made that would strengthen public safety outside of prison walls, but also inside prison walls, because we have an obligation to keep everybody safe in there. I mean, obviously the medical people, the mental health people, the officers, the administrative people running those facilities, but even the inmates, we have a responsibility to keep everybody safe. And then, inmates, when they've done their time and served their penance to society, and they're released, we provide opportunities in there for them to better themselves, and we hope that they will take advantage of them.
So you step in as the Department of Corrections Commissioner. Was the department in shambles? Was it in good shape? What were some of the things that you were able to tackle and succeed in terms of reform or change?
John, I would never say that the department was in shambles, because the people that work in corrections are, they're among the best. They are absolutely dedicated to what they do. There's over 2,100 people that work in the Department of Corrections in the various areas. There were some policies that had been put in place that myself and the governor absolutely disagreed with. There was amnesty boxes in the facilities where if people had drugs or paraphernalia of any type on them that they shouldn't have, that they were able to go to the box and put their item in and not be disciplined for having that. There was a day pass program where inmates who had been sentenced by the court to serve their time were being allowed to leave the prison facility, sometimes up to 12 hours, to attend things like church on Sundays or other events. I was given a pretty strong case by some folks about why that was a really good thing. But, it all boiled down to the fact that the court had sentenced people to a term that they needed to complete. And on top of that, we have a huge responsibility to care about victims. And I had a huge concern that victims were not being notified that this person, may be out of the facility for a certain time, supposedly with somebody who was like their chaperone. If crimes had been committed by that person, it just could have gotten real ugly real fast. So I did cut that off. There was also a program where spouses and some other volunteers could be in the prison facilities for unlimited amount of time. I just didn't feel that complied with the sentence that the inmates, were to be serving. And in itself, it created a big public safety issue. And, we had a big contraband issue. And every prison in the world will always be challenged with keeping contraband, out, but not having visitors roaming around freely and having access to different things, I think was a big step in stopping that from happening here.
Yeah, I always think of the Department of Corrections staff that are at these jail facilities as heroes because, they're literally risking their lives every day. State troopers would be other folks that are heroes, and they run into, shenanigans probably multiple times during the day. But these Department of Corrections folks are literally surrounded by it 24/7 on their shift. And so my hat goes off to them because, man, I can't imagine I'm sure they learned how to deal with it and all that, but the stress and all that of they're outnumbered and they still have to perform their job and be professional. So
right. And John, there's one other area I really want to bring everyone's attention to also, and that is in the department, there's probation and parole officers, and they are often forgotten when we talk about, COs, but those folks do not work within the walls of the prison the majority of the time, but they're out on the streets actually working often alongside with the local law enforcement in that area, or, the troopers or the FBI or the marshals. When they do these roundups and go pick up folks who have warrants or who have absconded, they're right there. These folks are certified to carry a gun. They have ongoing training, and they often find themselves in pretty darn dangerous situations. And, the thing is that they do their job so well that I think when they're doing their job, they oftentimes blend in and people don't even realize they're actually on duty working.
Yeah, they're going into the hornet's nest every day and not only having to survive, but they have to extract somebody or serve somebody with a piece of paper or check up on somebody. And man, it's a highly stressful and you're risking your safety every day every day you're on the job. So kudos to folks that do that for a living. I have some friends that are in the DOC, and man, I appreciate everything that they do because I sure as heck don't want to be transferring prisoners. It's not my calling, but somebody is doing it. And, one of the barometers I look at is when you were the Department of Corrections commissioner as doing a good job is you all stayed out of the paper pretty well, which I think is a great sign of you put your head down, you did your job, you made some good reforms along the way, no amnesty boxes. People can't leave every other Sunday to just go to church all day long. And you made some good improvements without stirring up the left hornet's nest of what we call the press here in Alaska. So kudos to doing that. I think that your tenure there was successful. And I hope that whoever your person is that is replacing you is just as good. So what's your vision for Alaska, Nancy, for being the lieutenant governor? I think folks, you can remind folks, if you'd like, kind of what the roles and responsibilities are as lieutenant governor. I think that it's very important to kind of like hammer that home for folks, because, even folks that are super voters that vote in every election, I think still some people learn what the lieutenant governor in Alaska does for the first time every election cycle, it seems like. So explain to us a little bit about what the lieutenant governor does, and then what's your vision as the lieutenant, if you all win as the lieutenant governor for the state of Alaska.
Okay. Well, by virtue of the Constitution, the responsibility of the lieutenant governor, the number one responsibility is watching over the election process and making sure that it is run honestly and effectively, and that every vote counts. Sometimes people joke and say, and your other responsibility is guarding the seal, the seal of the great state of Alaska. But each governor has the authority and the ability to assign tasks or certain areas to the lieutenant governor that is serving with them. And Governor Dunleavy and I have had some conversations, and I know he's looking at other areas that he will be tasking me with, and I'll be happy, to take those on. But the division of elections and what happens there is the main responsibility. I think that it's very important, it's critical for Alaskans to know that when they cast their vote, that it counts, and that every vote is counted. And they need to know that the process isn't, corrupted along the way. I think there's some things that are working very well right now within Division of Elections. I know there's a lot of very devoted, hardworking people that are there, but just like anything and everything, I think we can always look at it and basically say, what can we do better? Or how can we make this process go smoother? Or how can we guarantee that the chain of custody of the ballots around the state is handled properly, and is our process documented, so when the public is aware of the information, that they can see that it's an honest process. So I think just continuing to bring to light how the whole process goes. Nothing's done in the dark. I think that was done in the dark. I think that will ease a lot of Alaskans. There's always somebody who maybe shouldn't have cast a vote that somehow slips in. I think that may happen now and then, but as far as mass problems in our state, we don't have them like other states do. But that's not saying we can't always improve. We can, and I think that my very first order of business will be to go in and review the policies that are in place, and to talk with the folks, the majority of which are in Juneau, who work for the Division of Elections, and find out from them what's working, what they feel is not working, before I come up with, recommendations for potential changes there.
So a non-political kind of question for you. Who's somebody over your life that you've looked up to that's been kind of a hero to you, and why?
Well, I'll tell you, that person is my grandmother, and she's passed away, but there's probably not a day I don't wish that she was still around, that I could either call and share an experience with, or even ask her advice. She's somebody that was born in Germany, and she came to the United States across the ocean in a boat, came into New York Harbor, and started out here not knowing the language, but met my grandfather in that process of coming to America. They both learned the language. They both were hardworking, put themselves up, had very successful lives, and just loved people and loved all the opportunities and the things that America provided. But yet they knew that nothing was ever handed to them. They had to work hard to obtain, their goals. And along the way, I saw them trying to help other people reach their goals and just make things better. Whatever you're doing, whatever you have your fingers on, make it better than it was, before you got there, before you had it. I think that would be a good way for me to always live.
Nice. So what is it about it? What about Alaska is it that you love? I think that if you and Dunleavy win, I think it's very important that the governor loves Alaska and the lieutenant governor loves Alaska. And so what is it about Alaska that you love, that you want to see, continue? I think that oftentimes today we're faced with such negative stuff in the news and the Facebook and all this kind of stuff. And I think that it's very important that we talk about the positive things in life and the things that we really love. So give us an opportunity to hear why you love Alaska.
I'm glad that you asked. When I very first came here, I was overwhelmed with the beauty around me. And I mean, the very first time I went fishing in Ship Creek and pulled salmon in, I'd never seen fish so big. I'd then never tasted fish that were so delicious. I mean, right away, that was an experience I had that was incredible. But the beauty of Alaska, the mountains, the rivers, the water, the icebergs that we have, the glaciers, gorgeous. But even better than that is the people of the state of Alaska. Oftentimes, I'll describe Alaska to somebody who maybe is out of state or they've just moved here, and I say, you know what, you're going to love it because people here are not nosy. Everybody kind of minds their own business, but if you need help, people just jump in and they're there to help and get you back on your feet, and then they go about their business. It's just a group of very, very independent people who want to help others succeed, and they want to be left alone so that they can succeed. I love the independence of the majority of the people here. A weak soul, a week, whatever. This isn't a place really for that. Everything is big and gorgeous. Our opportunities, people will say, "Oh, you guys are all daredevils up there." No, we're really not. But there certainly is an opportunity for the people that want to do all those kind of things. I love, the more I've learned about Alaska. I can remember, honestly, when I very first came to Alaska, I just thought I thought everybody was an Eskimo. I mean, and I would hear that. I mean, literally 40 years ago, I had people say to me, "Well, when you got there on the plane, what'd you do? Where did you live? I mean, did you just take a sleeping bag and live on the street?" They had no clue about how things really are in Alaska. As I've over the years learned more, and now, there's over 240 Alaska Native tribes of people that all have their own cultures and traditions and beautiful things that come in all those. And I love that we've been able to, we're always striving to work together, to bring people together and value those things that are important to the different cultures, and yet have areas of understanding, where we're all on the same ground. So it really, the people in Alaska is the number one thing, but then the scenery, just the beauties of where we live, it's not replicated anywhere.
It's pretty phenomenal where we live, and I take it, hopefully I don't take it for granted ever. My family and I spent 3 weeks this summer RVing all around Alaska, and we had a blast. And I encourage folks to get out there. And there's people that save up, and Alaska's their bucket list, and they've been saving it up, for 30, 40, 50 years, and we get to experience it every day. So get out there and go do some fun stuff if you live here in Alaska. So Nancy, my question to you is this, and it might be a little bit of an awkward question because currently the incumbent has a lieutenant governor in there that's not running for lieutenant governor. Again, you're running for lieutenant governor. Do we need election reform? I think that, and let me preface this question, is I think that a lot of conservatives especially are worried about elections. They're worried about any kind of machines involved, internet involved, not being able to count, hand count now with ranked choice voting possibly. They're just worried, and ranked choice voting has made, I think, everything just way more complicated. We don't need to get into ranked choice voting, but are we in need of election reform? I know the current lieutenant governor brought forward a bill. I don't think it was ever heard, but what's your thoughts on that? Do we need
Well,
election reform? Do we not?
I think we do need to improve. And so in that sense, yes, we do. And the governor has a bill that was presented to the legislature last year. You're correct in that it was not heard. There was a bill that Senator Shower had that had some similarities, and his bill was heard, but never made it to the floor for a vote. My discussions with the governor are that we will be presenting a bill again to the legislature to look at. And things like machines that are used, they come up in conversation with Alaskans on a regular basis. And I think, again, if we can clarify for folks chain of custody of where machinery is and how it works and where ballots are, paper ballots are, because, we already use a paper ballot. We all go in and we get our ballot, and then when we're done, we put it in the little envelope they provided, and we go to the machine and we stick it in the machine, and it tabulates what we put in it. And then those ballots are stored inside that machine. But, that being said, I think that it would be wise to look at signature verification machines. I know they are a little bit pricey, and we would need 4 of them in the state, but I think that would potentially weed out any ballots that shouldn't be counted for, whatever the reason. The word fraud is a strong word, so I want to be careful in how they use that word. But I think we do need to make changes.
Yeah, one of the common sense things I think about when people get riled up about elections, and myself included, is that eventually I had to come to the realization that just writing a bunch of stuff on Facebook and getting mad at everybody is not going to do anything. But what you can do is, everybody lives, for the most part, there's some unincorporated boroughs in Alaska. I think there's a couple, but for the most part, everybody lives in a borough where you could actually volunteer in the election process. I know I can speak for my borough, the Kenai Peninsula Borough. They have an awesome process where you just literally call the clerk's office and you just tell them, hey, I want to volunteer. And you can even get paid in our borough. They'll pay you for the time that you take on election day to work at the election polling stations, and or you could volunteer. And there's you can be a watcher, you can be a greeter, you can be the person that hands out water, you can do a whole bunch of things. And I think my point is, for folks that are perturbed about the election, the only way to make a tangible difference is to do something about it. And an easy way to do something about it is to go be a watcher during your election process. Watch the ballots get put into the thing, and it's something that you gotta put your name in the hat to be a part of making a difference. Because I've seen the rants on Facebook, they don't do anything. You got to stick your name out there and volunteer, and stick your name out there and put it in the hat, like you did, Nancy, for running for lieutenant governor. So I will be excited to see that bill, if it's going to be a combination of Shower's bill and the governor's bill, or whatever it is. I'll be excited to see it. So why should somebody be excited about the Dunleavy-Dahlstrom ticket? I know that as the Dunleavy's the incumbent, and sometimes, especially in Alaska, I mean, I think we've only had 2 governors that have been able to win consecutive terms. Tony Knowles being the last one, I believe. And having a governor win 2 terms in a row is not really heard of in Alaska, because I think Alaskan voters get very finicky about the 1 or 2 things somebody runs on. If they can't deliver, they're gone. And so why should somebody get excited about the Dunleavy-Dahlstrom ticket if I'm a conservative sitting in my house on the Kenai Peninsula?
Well, I think a benefit, a benefit to the Dunleavy-Dahlstrom ticket is that we would have a governor who wouldn't have to skip a beat in continuing, the work that's already in progress, whether that's, looking at the economic situation, whether it's looking at what's been happening with the PFD and changes there, or changes that are being talked about, whether it's things, the sexual trafficking and assault situation we have in the state, the homelessness situation. The governor is currently working with others outside of state government on those things. We would lose the continuity of that, the economics of it, the situations, the conversations that are already happening with, oil companies and people that want to invest in Alaska. All of that, there would be a big, time period again where people would kind of just have to wait while a new governor got up to snuff on that. Having served with governor from the beginning of his term, I'm going to tell you that there were some bumps in the road that first year, and that's going to happen probably to any new governor, but we could avoid doing that again. We could avoid that. I've never seen a person so dedicated in the governor's office. And in my experience, since I've been doing this, I mean, the guy he literally works 16-hour days on state business. I know that sometimes he has to be reminded to eat. He's just so busy doing, state things, and he loves it. The enthusiasm level is high. He's energized with it. I think the combination of his experience in his life before he joined politics, the experience I had in life before getting involved in politics, my experience in private, my experience in the legislature, and also then in the executive branch, I think it gives us a real balanced look at the different things that are happening around the state. And we could be, I think we would be the most effective team to work for Alaskans.
So Nancy, let's say it's 20 years from now and you're sipping Mai Tais on the beach. What do you want to be remembered by for your legacy here in Alaska?
I would love to be remembered as a good person who cared about people and went above and beyond to help people. And that includes a lot of things, but I put a lot of value to listening to people, and not just the people that have money or not the people that can be in your face all the time, but the everyday Alaskans, and knowing, how they live and what their challenges are. To be remembered as that honest, hardworking, and a caring person would be good.
Awesome. So any other last thoughts on anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't get to cover? The stage is yours.
Well, thanks again, John, for this opportunity. As I continue to go around the state, sometimes with the governor and sometimes on my own, I'm so excited to be able to talk with Alaskans, to shake hands, to give hugs, get hugs. That's the best part of this campaign, is connecting with people. But I am committed to the state. I am willing to work hard. I'm committing to give an honest review to the things that are going on in division of elections, and seeing what we can do to make things even better. And I'm humbly asking for people's vote for Nancy Dahlstrom. And if they would like to contact us, we are available. They can email us at dunleavygovernor.com, or you can call the election office and leave a message for myself. I'm happy to talk to people.
So do you all have any events that you have coming up that you'd like to share, or can they just find those on the website?
I'm going to say best look on the website right now, because there are so many different things.
You guys are
I'm not sure which ones we're going to team.
Well, Nancy, I appreciate you joining us on the Must Read Alaska show, and hope to have the governor on here soon as well. I know that our folks would love to hear from him. And we want to thank our show sponsor, Gungerstein for Senate, for sponsoring the Must Read Alaska show. Because of her sponsorship, we're able to get conservative news through all the nooks and crannies of Alaska. We really are appreciative towards that. And we want to remind folks, if you listen to our podcast on Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, iTunes, or any other channels, and you enjoy it, make sure to give us a review there. Every time you give us a review, it helps it further a little bit more, which is awesome. So we have, for folks that are just joining us, maybe in this tail end here, I want to encourage you to go listen to the whole thing. We have Nancy Dahlstrom here, who just spent a half an hour with us. She's the former commissioner for Department of Corrections and former state house member from 2003 to 2010. And she is on the ticket running as lieutenant governor with Mike Dunleavy, who is our current governor. So until next time, I'm John Quick from somewhere in Alaska. Hope everybody has a phenomenal Friday, an awesome weekend, and stay safe out there. Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.